Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than what I had planned. Originally, I was going to do the third episode of my Summer Stack series, and if you want to check out our current episodes of that series, you can click the link up here. But I was kind of on YouTube a little bit, and I realized, you know what? Something that I really want to go over is the double lift. Now, I've already talked about the double lift on this channel a couple times, but I really haven't gone as in-depth into the double lift and the idea of the double lift as much as I really want to. So I'm really excited because this is a video I've been wanting to make, but I haven't really gotten around to doing it, and I thought, you know what, why don't we take a short break just for this week from the Summer Stack series to make this video. So today we're going to be talking about the double lift. Now, for those of you who are not aware of what the double lift is, basically what it is, it's the idea of appearing to be showing or turning over one card for your spectator. However, you are actually turning over two cards, okay? Now, there are a lot of different ways to do the double lifts. There are a lot of different things to cover about the double lift. Today, I'm really going to be covering the most notable aspects of the double lift. Obviously, there's way more to study about the double lift, and there's way more that I know as well. But I'm going to keep a very concise video, and we're going to talk about some of the more notable double lifts. So, in this video, we're going to be discussing a brief history of the double lift. We're going to be talking about the psychology behind the double lift, why you shouldn't be scared of the double lift, that sort of thing. We're going to then cut to the tutorial section, where we're going to begin by talking about the do's and don'ts of the double lift. We're going to talk about the get ready, which is basically the action that you do before you do the actual double lift action. Then we're going to be talking about the six main most notable double lifts I think we should really cover. And then we're going to be talking about three sort of weird, abnormal double lifts. They're not really typical ways you would do a double lift, but they do work for some scenarios, and they are useful in certain scenarios for certain aspects of a card trick. And then at the very end, we're going to end by, I'm going to be teaching you an extra move that will allow you to clean up a double lift in the scenario that your spectator is like, oh, you obviously flipped over two cards, and then you can show that you've actually turned over one card. So that's kind of the layout of today's video. I even made a list to keep myself on track here. So without further ado, let's just talk about the history of the double lift. Alright, so the history of the double lift, my bad. There are really only two things that I really want to talk about with the double lift. The first thing is that its first appearance was in 1584, and it was actually a double lift using coins, which is kind of interesting. Its first use wasn't actually with cards, even though we normally use the double lift with cards today, which is kind of interesting. Its first appearance with cards, at least in publication, wasn't until 1897, which does mean that it is very much, it's very likely, very possible that it did occur before that. However, it's the only publication we have of it. Those are really the only two pieces of double lift history I want to share with you. And there'll be a link in the description box if you want to go check out the full sort of history of the publications involving the double lift. So, let's talk a little bit about the psychology of the double lift. So let's start by talking about the very basic thing I want to talk about, really, and it's the only psychology thing I really want to talk about, and that is why you shouldn't be scared of doing the double lift. Now, a lot of magicians fear the double lift, especially in the beginning. They think it's kind of, it's something that's very fearful because you're always worried about the cards splitting, okay? When you first get into magic, you're worried about, people will catch me out doing a double lift, they'll catch the cards splitting, my double lift will fail. But the truth is that you shouldn't be scared of doing the double lift, because if your spectator does catch you out, that's an opportunity, okay? One of the big sort of psychology tricks that I've used in magic that have really helped me to excel farther is, and I can't credit where I got this because I have no clue where I found it, but it's a really great idea. But it's the idea of seeing a failure as an opportunity. Now, if you think of a double lift, if you fail a double lift, let's say you do a double lift with the cards split, like You flash 2 cards. Your spectators catch you out. You could see that as 2 things: a failure and or an opportunity. If you saw it as a failure, it would be like, well, my performance is ruined. I'm a complete failure as a magician. This whole performance failed. Or if you see it as an opportunity, you could see it as, that's very good, and you could pretend like you meant to do that, and then you could go into a trick. Sorry, I can't speak today. You could go into a trick that utilizes the idea of the magician messing up. So that's just one reason why you shouldn't be scared of doing a double lift, because that's one way you could clean up from that. The second reason is that there are ways for you to fix the idea of splitting cards or anything. The first thing is that use a newer deck. If you use an older deck where the sides are more yellowed and things, at least with borders anyway, the definition between 2 different cards is going to be a lot greater. Whereas if you use a newer deck, the cards will be a lot cleaner, and the cards won't, the difference between one card and another won't be as noticeable with borders. So that's one thing that you might make sure to do. And then, of course, the final way that you can kind of fix, not really fix, but help with your double lift when you're starting out before you really practice it enough for the cards to not split, is that you use a borderless deck of cards instead of a border deck of cards. Because with a borderless deck of cards, one card tends to blend in a lot better with another. Especially you use like a B deck of cards. It's going to really aid you a lot in when you're doing your double lift for the first time. So, and it will help to not flash the double splitting so much. So that's just some of the reasons why you shouldn't really be scared of doing a double lift. So, I think I've kind of talked about all I'm going to talk about now, so let's just go ahead and head into the tutorial section of this video. Alright, let's begin by talking about some of the do's and don'ts of the double lift. Let's talk about the first thing, the one thing that you definitely should never do, and that is that when you do your double lift, people turn over the cards, something that looks like this. They turn over the cards like this. Never do that, because that is a very unnatural way to turn over cards. I mean, whoever takes a card like this and turns it over like this? I mean, I've never seen a layperson ever do that. I've never seen anyone ever do that besides a magician when they're doing a double lift. That's never what you want to do. When someone turns a card over, normally they either turn it over like this, and at least in my experience anyway, or they turn it over like this. And for most double lifts, this is the way that you're going to turn over a card. So when you turn your double over, it's important to make sure you let it glide along the deck like this. Basically, you're just keeping part of the card or cards intact with the deck as you turn it over. You kind of slide it right along like that. Okay? So don't be afraid to do that when you do a double lift, because trust me, it'll help you a lot. Okay? Secondly, so that's kind of a do and don't. Secondly, you want to make sure that you don't make your get ready obvious. Now, when you're doing double lifts, most double lifts at least, you'll need to do what's called a get ready. And that is, you need to get some sort of, normally the get ready is you just need to get a pinky break underneath 2 cards, just like that. Okay? When you get your pinky break, you don't want to make it super obvious that you're getting a pinky break, okay, when you do it. So like, if you just hold your hands here and then spread the cards and pull them back to get a break, don't ever do that, okay? And don't riffle up loudly like to get your break, okay? You make sure that when you do your get ready, you don't want your get ready to be a moment to the spectator, in the spectator's eyes, okay? The get ready is a moment, is only a moment in the magician's eyes. It's the important moment in the magician's eyes mainly, okay? But you don't want it to be an important moment in the spectator's eyes. It doesn't even need to be a moment in the spectator's eyes. You really need to have people not concentrate on the get ready, because and the way you do that basically is that when you do the get ready, you don't do it looking down and focusing on it, okay? You do the get ready while you're talking to your spectators while presentation's still going on. And don't be worried about holding that break for a short period of time before doing your double lift, okay? That's actually the best way to go, because then when you do your double lift, your double lift is now the moment. Okay, so the moment of the double lift no longer involves the get ready. The get ready is now its own separate magician moment rather than a moment for the spectators. And be very natural with your double lift. Okay, don't try and do a super unnatural double lift, like doing something, like for instance, if you did something like this and you flipped it over like this, that's a very unnatural way of doing the double lift. Don't do something like that. There's not much else that I can't really say. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Just don't be awkward when you do it. Be comfortable with it. Don't be afraid of doing the double lift. Alright, so let's talk about the get ready. So the get ready, as I mentioned previously, is basically just, it's used in a lot of double lifts. Most double lifts use a get ready. That is mainly getting a pinky break underneath 2 cards. Okay, most, at least normal, average double lifts will involve getting a pinky break underneath 2 cards. There are several ways in which you can do this. Let me share with you some of the ways that I prefer. So, first off, let's talk about this very traditional one, and that is by riffling up the back of the deck until you have 2 cards, sticking your pinky in there and getting a break. The way that all beginners do it. Now, that's an okay way to do it. You just have to cover it. So, basically, all the way all that one works is you're just going to riffle up at the back. You're just going to riffle up until you have 2 cards left. Then you kind of stick your pinky in there to grab your break. And remember, a pinky break should not be visible from the front of the deck. It should only be visible from the back. Okay? So that's basically a very basic way of getting a pinky break. Now that can do good. You just don't want to riffle up loudly. And when you do it, you want to make it a natural, justified action. I mean, who would just riffle up the back of the deck like this for no reason at all? I mean, for magicians, it actually does seem like a very natural thing to do if you're someone who kind of plays with cards like me a lot. But for a spectator, that's not a super justified action. So when you do it, you want to get your break, and then you want to riffle the front of the deck. So in full speed, it looks like this. So you get your break, and then you riffle the front of the deck just like that to make it seem like a very much more natural action. Now let's talk about the pushover preparation. So the pushover preparation basically involves you using your thumb to push over 2 cards and then squaring back and getting a break like that. So the way that one works is you're going to push over 2 cards. Okay, you're going to use your thumb to push over 2 cards, and then using these fingers back here, you're going to kind of let these cards kind of lift up slightly above the deck like this when you push them. And if you just keep your fingers here in a natural mechanics grip position, that'll come very naturally. All you do is you then stick your pinky in there, and you let your pinky continue to hold that separation as you square up, as you kind of pull back with your thumb to square up. So that's pretty much all there is to it. It's literally just pushing over and then getting a break. So I'll show you this from kind of like a side view so you can kind of get a feel for what it should look like in a performance. And that's very simple to do. And you would do that as you kind of rest your hands here, kind of turn this towards you a little bit, and you get your break as you're talking. Okay, so that's a very simple one-handed way of doing this. A two-handed version of this would be if you spread the deck a little bit, you eyeball 2 cards from the top, and as you square up, you once again stick your pinky in there to grab a break. Okay, so from the side again, it looks like this. You kind of spread cards, and as you come back, you get a break. Okay, and that's a two-handed version of it. The one-handed version of it looks like this. Two-handed version of it looks like this. So that is the pushover preparation. Let's talk about the thumb count now, which is basically you use your left thumb to riffle down the side of the deck. So basically the way this works, you're going to begin by holding the deck in a basic mechanics grip, and you're going to bevel the deck. So you're going to bevel it this way, like that. So the way you do that is you simply use your thumb to push cards over to the side just a little bit like this. So you basically get this bevel, basically like a stair step right there, and that makes it easier to riffle down the side of the deck. Basically, then you're going to use these fingers to kind of hold pressure here, downward pressure on the cards. And as you do so, you're going to pull down on the cards with your thumb, so you get this bow in the cards like that, okay? And once you get that bow in the cards, then of course you just let your thumb release cards one by one, and that's all you have to do to riffle the cards. And if you do that at speed, it looks like that, okay? So to get a break underneath 2 cards, all you have to do is you just let your thumb count off single cards. You let it count off 1, 2, and then you let your thumb hold a little bit of a separation there. And all you do is you push with your thumb slightly, okay? So you push with your thumb slightly, and what that's going to do is it's going to kind of stick these cards over on the deck just enough at the back that you'll be able to get a break. So if you let it do that, you'll be able to push the cards over just enough that you'll be able to get a break. And all you do, if you push the cards over enough, you'll be able to stick your fingers in here, get your pinky in there to grab a break, okay? And another way of doing that is if you and another better way of doing it is that rather than just pushing over the cards, because obviously they could fall, okay, they could get messed up like that, is that if you hold these fingers here and you press your thumb inward, you'll bow the top 2 cards a little bit, and then you can just kind of riffle them off and get a break like that. I really don't know how to describe it. You basically just kind of transition it to your pinky, and it looks something like that. You get your riffle, and you get your break. Okay, so that's pretty much all there is to it. It's just basically it's basically just riffling with your thumb up here, but you just do 1, 2 cards, and then you transition that to your pinky. Okay, very simple. So that's the thumb count. The next one, the final one I want to talk about is the pinky count, which basically looks like that. Okay, and I'm kind of keeping an exposed view so you can see it the best. In actual performance, it would look something more like this. Okay. And then you'd be able to obviously get your break underneath 2 cards and such. The pinky count is basically the same as a thumb count, except for that you're riffling with your pinky rather than your thumb, which doesn't sound too difficult, except your pinky is naturally your weakest finger, so it's much harder to do, okay? However, there is a really great tutorial video. It's actually not the one I watched, the one I originally learned from, but it was released by, on Jeremy Griffith's YouTube channel. I found the tutorial on YouTube, I watched it, and it was it's probably the best pinky count tutorial on YouTube by far, because, and here's why, because not only do they go over how to actually go about doing the pinky count, but in that video they also talk about how to practice the pinky count, which is really, really great. So I'll probably release my own tutorial on the pinky count eventually, maybe, maybe not. But for now, I'll leave a link in the description box if you want to go learn the pinky count more in depth. You can check out that video because it is actually a really great tutorial on the pinky count. But the final thing I want to talk about is not really get ready, it's sort of an after ready, if that makes sense. Basically, it's a way that when you do a double lift, normally you're going to flip the cards over and then you're going to flip them back over like that, okay? Okay, this move is a way to get your break again very easily underneath 2 cards after you flip it over so the cards are face up on top of the deck. So this is called, I'm not really sure what to call it, so I just call it the pull-up move. Basically, what you're going to do is once you do your double lift, you're going to flip over the 2 cards, but you're going to leave them out-jogged a little bit above the deck, meaning that they're sticking out away from the magician a little bit, like this, okay? And you're going to hold it in mechanics grip like this with your index finger right here on top. So if you actually kind of release these fingers and let this side float freely. So you're going to use these fingers, 3 fingers are going to release, they're not going to hold the card at all. The thumb's going to hold the card on this side, and your index finger is going to pull up, and what that's going to do is it's going to cause the cards to bow upward like this, okay? This creates, it's basically kind of like a bubble, so you can just grab the cards from the bubble and turn them back over. Or, what I like to do is I like to lift up, get a bubble, and I don't like to get a huge bubble, I just like to get a small bubble, and I use my index finger to square up, and basically I stick my pinky finger in that bubble as I release it with my index finger so that I retain a pinky break from that bubble. So that's basically the pull-up move, and it's just a way in which you can maintain a pinky, you can get a pinky break back underneath the cards after you flip them over, and that is basically all there is to the get ready. Alright, so let's talk about the 6 most notable double lifts that I think you should practice, you should choose from. If you want to do the double lift, I suggest you choose from one of these. So, let's begin by talking about the push-off double lift, which is my preferred double lift. It looks kind of like this, or it looks like that, or you can make it look like this. Okay, Either way is the same lift. I have already taught this on the channel, so I'll leave a link up on screen and in the description box if you want to go check out that video. But that is something I've already taught on the channel, so I'm not going to go over here. I'm just mentioning that because that is my personal favorite way of doing the double lift. I pretty much always do the double lift like that, okay? And that's pretty much just the push-off double lift. So I'll leave a link in the description and on screen again to that tutorial. So, sorry, I had a random face-down card on the bottom of the deck. I'm not sure where that came from. But anyway, let's talk about the push-over double lift. Now, this is the double lift that I preferred before I learned the push-off double lift. And it's basically a slightly easier version of the push-off double lift that, and the reason why I would say that is because it utilizes a break. So, basically the way this works is you're going to begin by getting a break underneath 2 cards, just like this. You get your break. And then what you're going to do is you're going to transition that break to your ring finger, just like this, okay? And you're going to place your thumb down on top to bow the card. And as you do so, you want to kind of get your third finger underneath, kind of work it underneath the cards just a little bit. So you end up bowing the card, top 2 cards, just like this, with your thumb on top, third finger here. And what you want to do is you want to extend your thumb and third finger at the same time and at the same rate. Okay, well, maybe not necessarily at the same rate, but actually at the same rate. And you want to do it at the same time. And what that does is it causes the top 2 cards to move over as one unit, just like that. And that action is going to take a while to practice. It's still an advanced double lift, but it is a really great alternative to the push-off double lift, because I get it. When I first started learning the push-off double lift, I was like, yeah, I'm not a super huge fan because the cards of this double lift, just because it's super hard to push over 2 cards as one to turn them over. However, so that's why I enjoyed that one first, because it is a little bit easier in that you already have the 2 cards maintaining as one unit because of the pinky break. So you basically shift these 2 cards over as a unit beforehand, and then you're going to come over with this hand, you're going to take the cards, and you're going to glide them the rest of the way over and flip them over like this. And when you flip over the cards, one thing I forgot to mention in the do and don't section is that you glide them over and don't turn them over like this, setting them there, because that's very awkward looking. What you want to do when you turn over a double is you want to grab it and you want to kind of let it fall. Okay, you want to kind of just turn it over a little bit and then let it fall. Okay, and that's basically all there is to this double lift. You get your pinky break, you transition to your third finger, thumb goes on the top, clamps down, bows the cards, the ring finger and thumb extend as a unit, moving the extend as one at the same time, moving the 2 cards as a unit to the left, grabbing the cards and turning them over, and then of course you can do any sort of other turnover that you'd like to turn the cards back over. So that's the pushover double lift. And one more thing, I will leave a link to all the double lifts I mentioned. I'll leave a link to more tutorials, to where I learned them at least, and some more tutorial for down below, except for this fourth one actually that we're going to be going over. That one, actually, yes, I will be leaving a link for that one, but I'll explain that in a little. But now let's move on to an easier double lift, the strike double lift. So the strike double lift is one that is preferred by magician Jay Sankey. And I think I actually learned it from him. But basically, it's called the strike double lift because you're basically just striking the end of the deck, grabbing 2 cards, and turning them over. That's kind of the ideal action. It's not the actual action, though, and you'll see why. But basically, the way this one is done is you're going to begin again by beveling the deck. But this time instead you want to bevel it. You're just going to bevel it just a little bit. Now you can start with a big bevel, but you really want to start with over time you want to limit the bevel, which is basically just the slant of the cards like this. So you use your thumb to bevel the deck a little bit, and you're going to come over with your index finger, you're going to grab on the side, and you're going to riffle up the first couple cards until you have 2 cards left, okay? And another way you could do this is that you can grab the top card, and then you could grab the second card as well. That's another way that it is taught. I think that's a bit harder to do than simply just riffling until you feel 2 cards. And over time, you'll get used to the feel of 2 cards. Like, I know I have 3 cards here, but I know here I have 2 cards, okay? You'll get used to the feel of it. You just gotta practice until you know, hey, this was 2 cards. And the best way to practice that is to just take the cards, turn them over, and you keep doing this until you learn what 2 cards feels like. So you feel 2 cards, and then you just grab them, you pinch them, and turn them over. That's simple. That's all the strike double lift is. You just riffle up, you grab it, you turn over, and then you grab it again. Here's one tip for you is that if you give your cards a slight bend beforehand, or if they already have a click from being out in the sun or whatever, okay, that's really helpful when you're doing a double lift because it means that there'll be a natural separation between those cards and the rest of the deck, so you can just grab those very easily. And one more note that I have about the strike double lift, make sure you place your thumb over the top when you riffle. Okay, that will really help you a lot. So that's pretty much the strike double lift. Let's talk now about the easy double lift, or basically it's the double lift that I've already taught on the channel. I taught it in the second tutorial video I did, which was my first card trick tutorial. It was a very basic tutorial, very basic kind of changing card transposition trick. But I taught an easier version of the double lift since I realized, I taught a really advanced version of the double lift. I'll teach an extra easier version so people can still do the double lift. But, so the easy version of the double lift, if you don't know, basically you just get a pinky break underneath 2 cards, and you reach into the break, grab the cards from the break, and turn them over. Okay, it's a very basic version of the double lift. One of the easy, probably, if not the easiest double lift ever. But basically, alright, so this next double lift, I'm going to be teaching you 2 different versions of it, 2 different interpretations of it, I guess. And it's the Snap Double Lift by Larry Jennings. Now, I have learned this under 2 different interpretations. The first way I learned it as an add-on to a double lift to make it more convincing, more deceptive. The second time I learned it as a double lift all on its own. So I'm going to be teaching you both ways right now. But let's start with the first way I learned it, and that is as an add-on to the double lift. And the add-on version of it looks like this. You do your double lift, and then you snap the card as you flip it back over. But of course it was a double. So basically the way it's done is you're going to do your double lift. When you flip over the cards, you want to leave them out jogged. And you want to leave them out jogged a pretty good amount of the way. And here's what you're going to do. Basically, the convincer is the snap. Basically, the idea is that by snapping the card up, it seems impossible you can snap up 2 cards. So it's just a convincer that the double lift, that it really was a double. So just an extra add-on to your double lift if you would prefer it. The way I originally did it, I did it with a pushover, and then I did a snap double before flipping it back over. So let's learn this snap double. So once again, you're going to flip it over, you're going to leave it out jogged, and then here's what you're going to do. You're going to kind of curl your index finger underneath, okay? These fingers here need to kind of hold this side of the cards a little bit, okay? And you're going to clamp your thumb here on the side, okay? So this is the finger positioning. You have these 3 fingers here on the side holding on to the deck and the cards. It's important that they hold on to the 2 cards as well. Your thumb's kind of clamped, down on the left edge of the card or the right edge. If, you're right-handed, it's going to be like that for you. And your index finger is underneath the card. And what you're going to do is you're going to push up with your index finger, and it's going to create a bow in this card because the left thumb and these fingers won't let the card kind of snap up, so it creates a bow in the card, which creates tension. And basically, all you have to do is you just have to bow the card like that and then release. And all you have to do is just let go with these 3 fingers, okay? And if you kind of curl these fingers over the top as well, it creates a nice bow, and you just let go. And that allows you to create a really nice snapping sound, and allows the 2 cards to snap up as one. So that's basically all there is to it. So once again, you flip it over, leave it out jogged. You place your thumb here over the top of sort of the index corner of it. Index finger underneath, these 3 fingers on the side. These fingers let go, and it snaps up. And you'll just practice that. And eventually, and when you first do it, it'll probably look something like this. You'll probably get something like that. But over time, you'll be able to get them to snap up nice and clean like that. And then once they've snapped up, all you have to do is come over and turn this card over. Okay, so in order to do the snap double lift as a double lift by itself, you just need to do basically the same action, but you're going to incorporate a thumb count into it, which we mentioned earlier in the video. So you're going to begin with a thumb count for 2 cards, and then, just like I've already said, basically what you're going to do is you're going to have these 3 fingers on the side of the deck. Your index finger is going to be on top. These 3 fingers are going to hold very tightly here so that no cards slip past them. And then you're going to press inward with your thumb. That's going to bow these top 2 cards upward like this. Then you're just going to get your index finger underneath. And once your index finger is underneath, it's going to kind of support that card there. And then you're going to bring your thumb to clamp over the top. Okay? So you end in the same position with the card bowed here between these fingers, the clamped thumb. So all you have to do is release these fingers on the side and it snaps up. Okay? It won't make as aesthetically pleasing of a snapping sound. But that's basically all there is to the snap double lift, the actual double lift version of it. And basically the idea is that it allows you to get 2 cards very cleanly up here and just in a nice position so you can just grab them and go right into your lift. So that's basically all there is to doing the snap double lift as a double lift. Alright, so now we're going to talk about some of the weird double lifts, like the double lifts that you wouldn't normally do. So the first one is going to be a double lift from the center of the deck that looks like this. You basically grab the cards and you get a double right there from the center of the deck, okay? So basically, the way you do this is as follows. You're going to begin by riffling down the side of the deck, and whenever your spectator calls stop, that's when you're going to let go. So you're going to come in with this hand. Your index finger is going to lift up the top packet of cards so you get plenty of room to work down here with the double. So then your middle finger is going to come down, and then you're just going to riffle off and thumb count 1, 2 cards like that. But it's going to stop, but it's not going to riffle up all the way. You're going to stop it on your middle finger. So your middle finger is going to be on the corner of those 2 cards. Then you're just going to use your middle finger to swivel those 2 cards out, and you're going to swivel them with the side against your middle finger. So against your other middle finger, the cards are going to swivel out. So if I do that in an exposed view, the lift would look like that. So that's the swiveling action right there. But of course that's happening in the middle of the deck. So you just riffle down, you grab, and that just, and you don't swivel them out quite all the way, you just swivel them out enough, about that much. So you just get them out about that much right there. Then you just turn your hand over to show it. As you come over here, you pinch it and you grab it out to go into whatever you want. Now, there is a little bit of a cleaner center double that I think actually might work a little bit better. And it looks like this. You would have a card touched, it comes out, and then of course you just take it out and you can see it's actually the ace of clubs. It's not the cleanest double, but it is one that might work with a little bit of misdirection. Basically, you're going to out-jog a card in the middle of the deck, and all you're going to do is as you come to grab this card out and turn it over onto the face of the deck like that, you're going to be dragging the top card with it. So you're just grabbing and turning over like that, okay? So again, you just get a card out-jogged in the middle, you come up here, you grab it. As you grab it, you drag this top card forward. And it's helpful when you grab the card if you don't grab it like this and turn it over, but if you grab it more like this, so that these fingers are kind of sticking up here, so that when you, at the back, when you pull this card forward, it hits and it comes very cleanly out as a double, okay? So it's very simple. It's a little bit of maybe a more natural, I guess, not cleaner necessarily, but more natural center double, where you basically just grab the card from its out-jog position and you turn it over like that, and you have your double. So the final double lift I want to show you is called the spread double lift, and the reason it's called that is because obviously it goes as follows. You would just simply have a card touched and you turn it over just like that. It's the ace of clubs, but of course I turned over a double. Basically it's a double, it's basically a center double, but instead of doing it from sort of a riffle or anything like that, it happens in the action of spreading the deck, okay, and then you would go into your double, okay? So basically the way this one works is as follows. You're going to spread the deck, have a card touched, and all you have to do is you just have to use the misdirection, a little bit of misdirection, so that you can push this card underneath the card that's above it in the spread, so you have this kind of loose double like here. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then all you do is you flip the 2 cards over underneath the spread, kind of like this. I'll show you from a bottom view. It looks like that, okay? That's all you're going to do, okay? So again, you spread the cards, you have a card touched, you square it up with the card above it, and you turn it over like that. Alright, as an extra bonus tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you the KM move, which looks like this. Basically, it's a way to clean up a double. So, for instance, say you flipped over a card, you did a double lift, and someone said, that's a double lift, and you would say, obviously, no, it's not. It actually is only 1 card. And what I did there was I did a, as you might have noticed, if you paid attention to the double lifts in this video, I did a strike double, so it was actually a double, but after the double was over, I did a special cleanup move that allowed me to show the cards clean. So that's called the KM movement. Basically, all it is you're going to grab the 2 cards, you're going to bring them to the edge of the deck, and you're going to turn your hand over. And as you turn your hand over, you're going to use these 3 fingers to clamp down on that back card and slide it out like this, back onto the top of the deck, okay? And it's a very cool double cleanup move. And obviously, but if you just did this and you say, no, it's really not, okay? That's not really a justified action, so the best way to justify it is to flick the deck like this with your thumb. Or not flip the deck, but flick the card with your thumb when you do the KM move. So again, you get your double, you turn it over, use these three fingers to clamp down and drag it back. That's really all there is to it, and that is the KM move, which is a special way that you can use against hecklers, and in some scenarios you might actually want to, that allows you to do a double lift and then end cleanly. Alright, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, all that fun stuff. Hopefully you gained some valuable knowledge. I encourage you, try a couple of these double lifts out. See which one maybe you like best, maybe. And it's okay if you like an easier double lift, that's fine. If you like a more advanced double lift, that's perfectly fine. A lot of the stuff that I mentioned in this video, I'll be leaving credits to down below. Again, if you want to see the full history of the double lift as far as publications go, I'll leave a link to that in the description box. But this has been a pretty exciting video for me, and I'm really glad to have made it. So, can't wait to see you in the next video, which will be a summer stack episode for real this time. So, I think that's pretty much it, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.